Should Brian Kelly take over play calling duties? He answered that question on Monday. You'll hear it next. Locked in LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Brian Kelly met with reporters Monday after the loss to Vanderbilt, previewing the Texas A&M game. And as you might imagine, much of the conversation centered around the LSU offense, what has gone wrong, what continues to go wrong, and how might LSU be able to fix it and do so in a hurry. Let's just be honest about what this team is. They're not a good offensive team. LSU is 50th in America in passing offense at 253 yards a game. These are facts. This is objective data. This is not my opinion, not your opinion. This is what you are. You're 7 games in. This isn't like, someone played an FCS opponent week 1 and scored 70, and you played Clemson on the road and scored 17, and so there's a giant disparity. You're 7 games in. You're 50th in passing offense. You're 117th out of 136. 117 out of 136 in rushing offense at 112 yards per game. And you're 85th in scoring at 25.9, so 26 points per game. And, of course, 56 of those came against FCS Southeastern Louisiana. So you're one of 2 teams in the country that through 7 weeks has failed to score 25 points against an FBS opponent. It's LSU and North Carolina, Bill Belichick's Tar Heels. You are keeping dubious company offensively. It is bad. There's just no other way to say it. The offensive production is bad, period. That is an objective fact. There's no argument to the contrary. So Brian Kelly was asked on Monday if he should take over play calling duties. Now, keep in mind, Brian Kelly made his hay as a coach, being a really brilliant offensive guy during his days at Grand Valley State. And it's interesting because if you go back and look at Kelly's time at Grand Valley, it didn't start great. Like it was, or he inherited a bad situation at Grand Valley. And in his first year, they went 9-3, and then they went 8-3, and they went 6-3-2. And then he changed. And he went to a wide open offense. After 1999, they went 5-5 and 7-4. And in 2001, he went to a wide open spread style offense. And they went to 3 straight championship games. They lost in 2001 and then won back-to-back FCS championships, or Division II championships, I should say, in 2002 and 2003. Then he got the Central Michigan job. The point is, he created a huge pivot offensively as a really sharp offensive mind 25 years ago. So he's got the background as a play caller at Central Michigan, at Cincinnati. Like, this is where Brian Kelly cut his teeth as an offensive coach and a play caller. He is factually the most experienced and most accomplished play caller on LSU staff. So Brian Kelly was asked, should he call plays?
I can tell you that my involvement is much more in the game plan preparation. Play calling is an art and a science. It's both, right? And if you start getting involved in that too much, it does, in my opinion, over my career, it's not the best thing. Now I can veto things, and I do have suggestions, and I think that those are things that I'll continue to have. Believe me, I'm on both sides of the ball in special teams. I'm hearing it, listening to it. I have veto power, and I think from my perspective, that's the best place for me.
Okay. It is worth noting that Brian Kelly's Grand Valley team in 2001 set the all-time Division II scoring record, averaging 58.4 points per game. Don't get it twisted. Brian Kelly is a really, really smart offensive coach. But he's also coached a lot of places now since Grand Valley. Central Michigan, Cincinnati, Notre Dame, now LSU. And the stakes get much higher and the resources get much larger. And you have to delegate a lot of things, which in part means hire great coaches and trust them to do their jobs. And I'll give you a couple of examples of head coaches that have struggled to relinquish play calling duties. One is Billy Napier. Billy Napier refused to give up play calling duties during his time at Florida. And it cost him. His unwillingness to trust someone else to make those decisions ultimately cost him his job. Now, Russ Callaway, former LSU analyst Russ Callaway, has been elevated to play caller as an interim. We'll see how that goes. Another is Steve Sarkisian. Steve Sarkisian, his Texas team, as of right now, is struggling offensively. They just went to Kentucky and needed overtime to score 16 points. And Sarkisian was asked on Monday if he's thought about relinquishing play calling duties to an assistant. And he said no. And he said, quote, because that's why I got hired. I was a really good offensive coordinator. Now, being a really good offensive coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a really good head coach. There is a difference. And Brian Kelly has shown that he can win games both as a play caller and as a delegator when he's got the right assistants on staff. It is fair to ask right now if you have the right assistants. Now, Joe Sloan, I think, is a fantastic quarterback coach. He deserves a tremendous amount of credit for what he was able to do in helping develop Jaden Daniels. Also, it is fair to mention that Joe Sloan was the offensive coordinator a season ago when you were one of the top passing offenses in college football. That was Joe Sloan calling those plays a season ago. So it's not like when we talk about Sloan, you're guessing if he can call plays and function within a good offense. We've seen him do it. It's like if someone runs a 4.340 and then they keep running 4.5, you go, oh, well, they can't run 4.3. No, they can. Like, they've literally done it before. Like, that's a factual thing that happened. So you saw Joe Sloan call plays for a really effective offense and scoring offense a season ago. Does it mean he just forgot how to call plays, or have things functionally changed to where the offense has to functionally change? That's the big question. And obviously, what I keep pointing to, if you're an everydayer, you've heard me say it, it's the fact that the offensive line has really struggled so mightily, and that has not given Garrett Nussmeier time. And he, like a lot of you have pointed out, not being a super mobile quarterback, can't make up for some of the deficiencies in the offensive line like Jaden Daniels was able to do back in 2022 when another very experienced play caller, Mike Denbrock, was pulling the strings. All that to say, I would not be opposed to Brian Kelly calling plays if he chose to do that. I also don't think necessarily that's going to fix the problems that ail LSU right now. I think what will fix LSU's problems are improvement upon the offensive line that protect Garrett Nussmeier and allow you to continue to run the ball more effectively. You keep doing that, and I think you can keep getting better on the offensive side, which is something Brian Kelly said he's actually starting to notice. Is he right? Well, let's hear what he said. We'll continue on this conversation next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Let's be honest. Most of us can't even name all our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, investments, it's easy to lose track. And that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why you need to use Monarch, an all-in-one finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. It'll help you organize your accounts, track your spending, get a handle on your investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. See, Monarch and their visual dashboards, they're smart tools that make it so much easier to understand where your money is going and how to make it work harder for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. Built parlays, tried player props, even followed live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. That's FanDuel.com. So, Brian Kelly isn't going to take over play calling duties. They'll remain with Joe Sloan. But Brian Kelly was also asked, are you doing too much offensively? Which is something that I believe has been kind of the case, or had been kind of the case early in the season. Why you've seen a lot of maybe timeouts, confusion, a lot of pre-snap motion. As a matter of fact, something Brian Kelly said a couple of weeks ago was effectively, if you're an everyday, you heard her say it, call the play, run the play. Stop with so many pre-snap checks, all the motion movement, call the play, run the play, to simplify, take a lot of the thinking out of it. And that's actually something Brian Kelly reiterated on Monday.
Yeah, we started doing that about 3 weeks ago. I think right after the Ole Miss game, I talked to Coach Sloan and said, and Coach Hankton, look, we need to shorten this inventory and be better at the things that have been highly efficient for us. So I think we went into that process about 3 weeks ago through the bye week, and I think it's proved to be effective for us. So, I would agree with you, and I think we've shown that, offensively, that's where we're heading.
The other thing that is very apparent is that LSU is showing and has shown in the last two games more of a commitment to running the football. And we talked about this after Ole Miss, as you well know. Tigers threw it 34 times. They ran it 22 times. You had a massive disparity in run pass. And so against South Carolina, you saw much more commitment to balance. 33 runs, 33 passes, 30 runs for LSU in that game. Against Vanderbilt, again, you saw more of a commitment to balance. You saw 28 passing attempts, 21 rushing attempts. It's not completely 50-50, and obviously down late, you had to throw the ball. But for the bulk of the game, you were attempting to run the football. Harlem Berry had 11 rushing attempts in the game. Caden Durham had 7 rushing attempts in the game. So you did try to feed your running backs and try to get somewhat of an offensive game going. Now, the other thing that Brian Kelly said is, with this simplified approach and with more of a commitment to these things, they actually have been improving.
Look, we want positive outcomes just like our fan base wants, right? But our last 9 quarters of offense have been trending to where we need to be, right? We're running the football with effectiveness. We're targeting the receivers that need to. We got to get Aaron Anderson probably involved a little bit more now that he's healthy. He's a big play guy. And then defensively, we need to continue to play like we have played in the first half. And if we do that, we get both sides of the ball playing complementary football. I think I've said it more than once, that we haven't played that complementary football where both sides are hitting on all cylinders. We just haven't hit that point yet. So we'll continue to prepare our football team, work on the things that can help us get to that level. And it's an ongoing process that, when every day is a self-evaluation of what I'm doing, what our players are doing, what our coaches are doing. And we're taking all those hours to make sure we do that.
2 things that he said there, that they've been better offensively and improving in their last 9 quarters, and that they're getting the ball more to the playmakers they need to get the ball to. Start hypothetically, or for an example, with Trey'Dez Green. Trey'Dez Green had 2 catches against Clemson. He didn't have another catch until South Carolina. Now, it's important to note that in week 2, of course, against Louisiana Tech is when he got rolled up on. So he missed the the bulk of the Louisiana Tech game. He missed the Florida game. He did not have a catch against Ole Miss. And then after that loss, they said, you know what? Let's feed the ball to the 6'7", 240-pound freak show. He had 11 targets, 8 catches for 119 yards and a score against South Carolina. What do you do for an encore? Comes back against Vanderbilt, catches 5 of his 6 targets for 74 yards and a score. And nearly and 64 of his yards were yards after the catch in the game against Vanderbilt. So yes, they have pumped the ball more to Trey'Dez Green. Barian Brown as well. Barian Brown, as Brian Kelly said a week ago, they wanted to get him more targets. 4 of the first 6 offensive snaps against Vanderbilt, the ball went to Barian Brown. Harlem Berry's another example. In the first 5 games, Harlem Berry had 23 rushing attempts. Against South Carolina and Vanderbilt, Harlem Berry's had 15 rushing attempts, 11 against Vanderbilt. It's also worth mentioning in the 5 games that he had 23, 7 of those came in mop-up duty against Southeastern Louisiana. So aside from that, you were talking about 16 rushing attempts through the first 4 games, not including FCS Southeastern. Through the 2 games, the last 2 games, South Carolina and Vanderbilt, 15 rushing attempts. So clearly you are getting the ball more to your playmakers with a very intentional way to go about doing it. It's still not netting you points because you're not finishing drives. And that's the biggest problem for this team right now. Why are they not finishing drives? Well, it's a lot of different what ifs. It's you have first and goal at the 1 and a beautiful design play that's going to be a touchdown to Xavier Thomas, but you have a false start on Donovan Green. A week ago, you're at the 1-yard line and Juwan Johnson fumbles into the end zone. And also against South Carolina, Garrett Nussmeier throws an interception at the 1-yard line because he's not looking at the safety. Time and again, we have seen this team do that. Get into the red zone, get into the blue zone inside the 10, and not convert touchdowns. Instead, rely on field goals or turn the football over. That has affected your ability to score points, and that is the objective of football. LSU scored on 5 of its first 6 possessions against Vanderbilt. 5 of its first 6 possessions, it scored. But 3 of those 5 were field goals, and the one you didn't score was a missed field goal because of your inability to finish drives. And too often, it's a penalty that puts you behind the sticks. It's a TFL. It's a negative play that gets you off schedule and kills drives. You got to somehow find a way to finish drives. And a big part of that, of course, is protecting Garrett Nussmeier, playing smart, not committing penalties, and the ability to run the ball, especially when you get inside the 5-yard line. See if they can continue and improve. That's a tall task this week against a very physical, imposing defensive front from Texas A&M. See if the Tigers can continue progressing in that way. So one of the things I asked Brian Kelly is now with 2 losses in conference play, have the goals changed? This was a team that had championship ambitions. There has not been a 2-loss SEC champion since LSU in 2007. So has that conversation changed? You'll hear Brian Kelly's answer next. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. Pull up Game Time, just a couple of taps. You'll see amazing deals. Talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. And Game Time app makes it super simple. You can even see the exact view from your seat before buying. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. So the Tigers are now a 2-loss SEC team. And we have not seen a 2-loss SEC champion since LSU back in 2007. To think that this LSU team is going to be able to somehow find a way to an SEC championship, is probably unrealistic at this point. Although the SEC is kind of wacky this year. But I asked Brian Kelly, given the fact that one of your seeming stated goals is now, for all intents and purposes, off the table, does that change the conversation you're having with your team?
No, what we've talked about is the excitement of this opportunity that we have this week to go 1-0. And that 1-0 is against the number 3 ranked team in the country. So, look, this is about the history and tradition of LSU football. You get these matchups at home. They're exciting. And we're looking forward to just the focus on playing our best when our best is needed against a great opponent in A&M in Tiger Stadium.
Their best will be needed to win the game Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, but it's something that is inherently doable. And you can roll your eyes and laugh at that, and I wouldn't blame you if you did, considering we've seen LSU lose 2 of their last 3 games. But both were road games against ranked teams. And LSU has not lost at home yet. They've been quite good, actually, in Tiger Stadium under Brian Kelly. And as good as Texas A&M has been this year, they're undefeated. They're ranked 3rd in the country. I'd also point to the fact that the odds makers have installed number 3 undefeated Texas A&M as just a 1.5-point favorite over LSU. The professionals who set lines think this game is a virtual coin flip. And the reason is because LSU has a ton of talent, and the game's at night in Tiger Stadium. It's really hard to go on the road and win in the conference. Really hard to win anywhere in this conference, by the way, but it's especially hard to go on the road and win in this conference. And this is a situation where you're playing a Texas A&M team that their record is very good, but they also needed a kind of a mini miracle to get past Notre Dame on the road in South Bend. And last week they were on the road at Arkansas and squeaked past 45-42. So they've played 2 games. Texas A&M has played 2 games away from Kyle Field. They gave up 40 to Notre Dame and 42 to Arkansas. Now, I understand LSU's offense has not been good, but this is a Texas A&M defense that has been vulnerable at times this year, that has given up big plays, yards, and points. I understand that LSU's offense has not been good. We started the show with that. That is an objective truth. So too is it true that Texas A&M's defense has struggled. So it's a little bit of a bad on bad, but it's also one of those indicators of how competitive the Southeastern Conference is. It's something I'll continue to say. The ceiling in the league has lowered. The floor has risen. And so all the 16 teams have compressed. A&M, despite being top 5, going on the road against an interim coach in Arkansas, ends up in a dogfight. And Brian Kelly, as he said on Monday, that's something that's not lost on him.
It's a competitive scenario each and every week. Look at the SEC last week. Were there any blowouts? I mean, I don't know that there were. I mean, Texas and Kentucky went to overtime. Arkansas put up over 40 points. Georgia, Ole Miss was a track meet. Auburn, I think, goes to overtime as well. I mean, it's a tough league. It's competitive each and every week. There's no layups. And so why is that? Well, there's an investment, and that investment piece is revenue sharing. And so you can build your roster through that. It's not just about, I want to go where the team always wins, or that's got a great tradition. Teams that are building their tradition are building it with, certainly the ability to help their student athletes as well. So that's part of it. But, still player development is important. Getting better each and every week and having the best version of your football team is important as well. I wouldn't stand up here and say, hey, all these teams are good because they got money. That's disingenuous, right? But it does play into it. There's no doubt about it. And I think we see that within the SEC.
Certainly, the team that beat LSU this past Saturday is evidence of that. The fact that they were able to build a roster through the transfer portal and revenue share, and NIL has put them in a position where a perennial doormat is now a top 10 team in America in Vanderbilt. but it's also why we've seen the margin in this league shrink. It's why we can look around the conference, and it wouldn't be any surprise whatsoever if LSU won the game Saturday against Texas A&M. Now, I don't think there's a lot of people that are going to pick LSU to win the game. Quite honestly, I'm not going to pick LSU to win the game because I think Texas A&M's physicality at the line of scrimmage is what ultimately will win the game on both sides of the ball. Their ability to run the football and their ability to stop the run, making LSU likely one-dimensional. So we'll see how it all plays out. But a year ago, Ole Miss was a superior team talent-wise to LSU. They came into Tiger Stadium, made a few mistakes, and LSU capitalized. So is it possible for LSU to win Saturday? Absolutely. Just like it's possible for LSU to beat any team left on its schedule, it's also possible for them to lose to any team, except Western Kentucky on the schedule. So that's why it's going to be a fascinating watch for the remainder of the season to see if LSU can, in fact, have a little pride, rise up, win some games nobody thinks they will, get themselves back into contention and play for something meaningful in November, or if at 2 losses now and their SEC goal unraveling and the likelihood of a playoff, their main goal almost out of reach if it starts to unravel on the team like it has for Clemson, like it has for Penn State. Which direction does LSU go? That's something we'll follow here on Locked on LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making it your first listen. Please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked on LSU. It's your team every day.